No, I can't quite remember what that old slogan was. Something to do with, there's only one way to skin something. What was it? No, I don't think it was it wasn't a squirrel. No, it was something else. There was only one way to skin, or was it one way? I don't recall. Well, it was an old slogan, you know? You don't want to forget old slogans, because if you forget old slogans, you're liable to forget everything. Actually, there isn't much else, really. Old slogans. Yeah, the old slogans are the best slogans. There's no slogan like an old slogan. That's right, there's no slogan like an old slogan. What happened to our theme here tonight before we came out? It went out okay? It did, huh? Yeah. It's about time something happens around here. Of course, it's Monday, and there's a lot of pushing and hollering and everything else. I have a thing here. I don't know how to quite bring this up. Will you, excuse me while I warm up here? What's the matter with this thing here? It's very good. Gee, do I know some terrible lyrics to that. I'll award you a brass figurine with bronze oak leaf palm if you can sing it along with me. Your own favorite lyrics. It's heart all the way through. Now, I don't know whether or not we should mention this. I'm sitting there, you know, and I'm looking over the New York Times. It's a very funny paper. And I'm looking over the Times there, and here's a little item that says Statue of Moses rejected at fair. I don't know what Moses they were talking about. It says Statue of Moses rejected at fair. This pavilion says that they feel that the statue that was suggested that they put up has a simian appearance. So they rejected it. Well, I don't know quite how to feel that when we can get into all kinds of stuff here. Simian. Do you know what simian means? Oh, you remember? No, you remember the Simian twins? That was P.T. Barnum and all that stuff. It's kind of confusing sometimes. No, it isn't actually confusing. I mean, to be honest with you, it's perfectly clear. I'd like to believe that life is confusing, but it isn't. I mean, you walk along, you scratch. It isn't as confusing. Well, it isn't confusing, actually. I think it's only confusing when, well, maybe confusion itself is a state of mind. Well, there's a non sequitur for everything. Hi, George Shepard came up with a Gertrude Steinism, didn't he, there? Or maybe it's a Norman Mailerism. It's pretty hard to tell. Maybe it's a Dorothy Kilgallenism. Gets difficult. It's like that lady in the old Dutch cleanser can. Do you remember the Dutch cleanser can? Where the lady is seen there, and she's looking into the shined bottom of her frying pan, and she can see her reflection looking at her reflection in a frying pan, and it goes ad infinitum, ad nauseam. Well, they've done away with that, you know. They don't have that picture anymore on the old Dutch cleanser. Or is it Dutch cleanser? Didn't Dutch cleanser have a lady with wooden shoes? Well, what's this business of looking? Was she the one that was looking in the mirror at herself, or was it somebody else? Was it? Are you sure? Yes, it was Dutch cleanser. It was not Arm & Hammer. Have you ever heard those Arm & Hammer commercials on the air? Yeah, no, this guy's... Yeah, I think it's something to do with teeth, but he's talking about his giant right arm. He says, you'll find my giant right arm on the Arm & Hammer package. And he sounds a little bit, just the slightest bit, like Mr. Chucky. And a little worried me there a little bit, because that isn't exactly the way I pictured the rest of the guy who went with the Arm & Hammer. But, of course, these things are getting more and more... for those of you who are confused, and many people are today, I notice that one thing we've got to concede is that man, the 20th century type man, is moving forward. He's not standing still. He has cleared away the bushes, the undergrowth of ignorance, right, friends? and he's beginning to see the light, right? So if you would please bring me cut number 1 in there, that is entitled Seeing the Light Music. Please bring it on right now. Hit the button. That's it. Just sneak it in behind me, and I will wait. That's it. Bring it up all the way, real loud. Very loud. Turn it up there like we're on the radio. Very good. Now looking through our vast file here to provide my... Don't look so worried, honey. You'll be all right. Provide my... It's okay. Everything's here. It's all here. I'm pretending. See, I'm playing. It's all part of my little theatrical act. How long? How long? There we go. Very good. That's it. Now just... That means take it out. Out, out. Very good. Yeah, out. It means all the way off. Out, out, out. Okay. I'm sitting here, wondering just what is happening. I'm talking about on a larger scale, on a very large scale. That I'm listening to the news throughout the day and watching ads and watching various plays on the Broadway boards and on television and one thing and another and movies and so forth. And I'm becoming more and more convinced that we're working in two different directions. Really two different directions. On the one hand, man he's going absolutely insane technically, just wild. We can do practically anything today. We can go to the moon, and we're on our way. We're sending up television cameras to Mars and the whole bit, And on the other side, we are going exactly 180 degrees out of phase. Now, by this I mean there is a growing Dark Ages complex going through us. In short, I believe that the Slavism, on the one hand, Slavism in general is growing. It's fantastic growth. It is. It's just an incredible growth. Now, you can call it almost anything you want. You can pretend it's fun. I mean, this growth of Slavism. You can call it camp. You can call almost anything else. But nevertheless, there is a gigantic, sudden shifting in the general direction of the stuff that the Slavs always dug anyway. And we're called Slavs for it. A guy that was hung on Batman and Superman comics a few years ago, he was a plain ordinary Slav. Well, today he's avant-garde, and he's right there with the with the deep, secret, hidden inner meanings. And on television, have you ever watched daytime television? No, really, I mean, just watching it as if you were looking at something in the zoo, which in effect you are. If you've watched daytime television for any period of time, you realize that Helen Trent, that what used to be called really crud stuff on radio, Helen Trent, they had all these, The Road of Life and all these various low-octane soap operas. These literally were Dostoevsky compared to what is really big time today. Yeah, really, it's a wild thing to see on both ends of the scale. Now, I'm a great fan of mailing lists. I don't know how I get on all these mailing lists, but I am on about 10 million mailing lists. I guess anybody who has any kind of a public name or you're in any kind of a public medium, you wind up with all sorts of people putting you on various lists of one kind or another. And I must get, probably on an average of, maybe on a week's average, maybe 25 to 30 pieces of truly junk mail. Now, these are not public relations bits. They're not sending me a thing and saying we are announcing the opening of our new phrenology studio. They're not doing that. What they do is send me the plain ordinary mailing list, like as if, I'm one of the people and I'm about to buy. See? Well, listen to this one. You would not believe this one. I don't know how many people got this, but boy, is it a fascinating thing to get in the middle of the 20th century. It really is an intriguing one. Now, one of the most common mailing pieces of all today is the mailing piece that is assuring the man that he can become successful, that there is a course available, there is a book available where the man or the woman can become successful. Now, the success that they talk about takes many different forms. There is sexual success. There are thousands of books and courses available for this. I get these mailing lists constantly. Then there is the financial one. There's the one that says you can become top dog in your outfit in just 7 weeks if you follow our course 5 minutes a day, and you begin to think right, and the next thing you know, you're sticking everybody with a knife and you're in business, Learn how to be a schlock. Really learn how to be rotten. Well, this is a big thing. Now, there are others that could be called general happiness success courses. Now, this is the kind that people who are unhappy get all the time, or at least ostensibly they're supposed to be unhappy. It says, have you wondered about happiness? Have you wondered how other people seem to get more out of life? Have you noticed that other people seem to enjoy things more? Well, for just 7 minutes a day, in just 2 weeks, you too can get more out of life by taking... This is another kind of success. Now, in general, most of these success courses, I've noticed, follow a pattern when you get them. They have rules, golden rules for happiness, like think good, or stand up straight and look at the sun, that kind of stuff. Rule 1. When you get up in the morning, then they usually have one that says, you're as good as anybody else rule. So when you get up in the morning and shave, you look in the mirror and you say, I'm just as good as anybody else. In fact, I'm better than anybody else. And I'm just as tough as anybody else. And by George, Bullard ain't going to push me around today in the mailroom. And then that's supposed to work. It says, remember to do this every day before you go to work. Say this to yourself. And then as you go, then there's all kinds of little rules like think positively. Don't allow the negative to come in. Now, one thing though, now I'm getting to a point here. You all know about these things. You get these. They're advertised in the Times. They're advertised in the Wall Street Journal. They're advertised in all the big papers about the various courses and books available. Most of them are predicated on one premise, and that is that most people feel that they are really flubbing the dub. Most people feel they are really not making it, that they are lousing up their life, and somewhere along the line, they really got bollocksed up. And all the other guys are on the way. Johnny Carson, look where Carson is. For crying out loud, what's Carson, He's on the way, he's making the scene big. Paul Newman, look at him, he's making the scene big. For crying out loud, look at guys like Bernard Baruch. He's on the big time. All these various guys are making the scene, and everyone else has a feeling that they loused up. Now, the one thing they never mention in any of these courses, they never even presume to mention that one sneaky word, talent. They never bring that up. It's just a lot of rules. Apparently that Paul Newman learned a lot of rules. Apparently, Bernard Baruch learned a lot of rules. He learned about 8 great rules, and the next thing you know, he's sitting on a park bench wearing golden shoes. Oh, sure, the rules to get it. Speaking of sitting on park benches and scratching, this is WOR AM and FM New York. And before we go any further, before you louse up again this spring and buy another hunk of junk, we would like to suggest that you find out about one of the 7 finest automobiles in the world, according to Road and Track, which is a very authoritative magazine. Peugeot, an excellent car. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. There's 18 different ways that Frenchmen pronounce it. Suffice it to say, you'll get by if you just go in and holler Peugeot. And if you're going to the automobile show this week, make it a point to go over to the Peugeot exhibit. You'll find that this is a big automobile, an excellent car, and is extremely economical, and is one of the 7 finest made cars in the world. It's the French Peugeot. And by the way, in case you're interested in how they stand up, the oldest running automobile in the United States today is a Peugeot, an 1891 Peugeot. It's a rugged, beautiful car that has a lot of accessories and is truly worth investigating. It's Peugeot, and if you want to get pictures and details on it without any problem, just send your name and address to Peugeot on a postcard in care of me, Friendly Fred. Peugeot, WOR, New York, New York. Okay? By the way, their dealer here in town is at 2 East 46th Street, right off 5th Avenue. It's Peugeot. Now I've got a mailing piece. Now I'm fascinated by this thing. Now I suspect that years ago, you see, I presume that back around the turn of the century and before, Most people got their answers to these sneaky things through religion. In other words, if a guy was not making it, he felt that he was a sinner. He felt that somewhere along the line he was unworthy. And if he really had troubles in a cosmic way, he said to himself, well, God has willed it this way. God has seen me as a rotten sinner, and he's laying it on me. And and when the man would go to see the minister in the years 1832, and he would say, I am unhappy, sire, the minister would say, always, almost invariably, God has seen fit in his wisdom to punish thee, for thou art indeed a sinner. Now maybe, perhaps, thou dost not know where thy sins, but thou art a sinner. Well, now that provided an answer. And so the guy went home and he proceeded to try to make good. Now, he did it, even in those days, through a book. He would usually get out his Bible and go back over the rules and try to figure out where he's been sinning, and he'd beat his breast. Well, now in this day and age, this is another time. You find that people, by and large, there are large numbers of people, even though they will not concede it, do not accept religion certainly in the same way that they did 100 years ago. And now they've got problems, but they're still bugged by the fact that they're not making it, or they're unhappy, or any one of 1,000 things. And so what does he do? Where does he get the answers? Well, books. They're buying books by the millions. In fact, you can buy LP records now, even in stereo. Various guys are turning these things out, and they're giving you pep talks. And every morning you can put this guy on. Do you know that there's one to be played every morning? Have you seen that one? I ought to bring him in some night and play him for you. Oh, yeah, there's a guy that comes on. They've got this beautiful, resonant Dr. Norman Vincent Peale voice, and he comes on, and he has a tremendous sound of horns and fanfare blowing. Blah, 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 blah. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I want you today, this morning, this very morning, in fact, this very minute, I want you to walk out of this house a taller man. Yes, try a few little simple things. This morning when you're sitting down to eat your breakfast cereal, try pulling your stomach muscles in. Try that. Try looking out of the window with a level, cool gaze. Look up at the sun and say, I'm on my way. Try that this morning. And then when you tie your shoelaces, when you put on your hat, put that hat on square on your head and say, I'm going out today. I'm going out today, and do it. All right, now, before we go into the next cut will be... Now, there is a record that says exactly that. Now, one thing that they have not gone into, and here we are, we're in 1965. Now, I've been getting these mailing pieces for, maybe 5 or 8 or 9 years now. Steadily here at WOR. I have just received the most fascinating one of them all, and it is truly a going back into the genuine Dark Ages. It is truly going back before the days of religion. You see, if you were to send a guy a mailing list, if you were to send a guy a mailing piece that says, fella, the reason you're not making is you're a sinner. You're a sinner. Have you thought of going down and talking to this fine minister that's down at your church? Have you thought? Well, he'd say, come on, what are you talking about? And he wouldn't buy that today. But what if you went before religion? What if you suggested something to him that was very popular, say, 7,000 years ago? He might be inclined to buy it, you see. Because we've already discounted religion, many guys have. And many guys have already discounted the Norman Vincent Peales of the world. They've tried it, They all went out and bought How to Succeed, or they went out and they bought something called the Power of Positive Thinking, or the Power of Negative Thinking, or Negative Thinking Made to Work for You, and one thing and another. And they're still flubbing around, and got a bad ankle and nothing's happening and the phone doesn't ring, and when it does ring, it's just Bullard on there giving them the business and yelling and yapping around down there near their hindquarters, And so what does he do? All right, if you got my scary music, I'm going to read this one to you exactly. Hold it there and bring it on big. I will read to you from this mailing piece as I received it here at WOR through the U.S. mails. Now, call upon these mighty beings from the invisible world around you and instantly begin a wonderful new life of wealth, love, and happiness. Here is positive proof you possess amazing psychic powers that will bring you anything your heart desires. And here is the secret of releasing and harnessing them. Dear friend, all around you at this very instant is a vast, invisible world pulsing with power. You cannot see, hear, feel, taste, or smell this world. But if you could tap its power right now, all of your dreams would come true. All of your problems would melt away. All of your desires would be instantly fulfilled. For the inhabitants of this invisible world are real, and they will bring you anything you want out of life, if only you ask them for it in the right way. Yes, whether you want large sums of money, glowing good health, dozens of devoted friends and admirers, a more satisfying love life, or anything else, the dwellers in the unseen world will help you get them instantly. You need only whisper your wishes to your servants in the invisible world, and they will come true. With their help, you will live a life piled high with the golden riches, the luxurious possessions, the personal honors, and all else that you have longed for these many years. Impossible? Perhaps. But in the startling pages of this new book, you will meet these shadowy inhabitants of the other world and find out how to contact them. You'll discover, for example, a mysterious species of invisible animals that talk with human intelligence, and they'd be glad to talk to you. Yes, this book takes you on an amazing journey to the Isle of Man to track down one of these beings, and gives full details of many conversations. A whole new universe will open up before you, as if you had been taken off a blindfold, and you will understand many mysteries that have puzzled you for years. And these creatures can be put to many uses. They can guard your home, protect your family, carry messages for you, and let you know what others say about you behind your back. And they can even make you rich. You'll find full details on pages 155 to 170. Yes, friends, these invisible creatures are but one of the many species that live unseen all around you. Some of the others are good. Others, unfortunately, are evil. They have been affecting your life from days before you were born, whether you wanted them to or not. When you contact these beings and control them, you enjoy a tremendous success. When you ignore them, you pay the price in misery and failure. It's as simple as that. Yes, friends, these tiny beings have been called by many names over the centuries. Elves, gnomes, fairies, leprechauns. But now you can contact them, and they will make you rich. Satisfaction guaranteed, or your money returned. Can you imagine? Now, you see what I mean by going back before religion? In other words, this is truly the Dark Ages. Oh, this is before the Dark Ages historically. This is back to the days of the men who began to creep out of the ancient caves and felt that there were spirits all around them, evil spirits and good spirits, and man could contact them, and all men were controlled by these evil little sprites. Now the only point that I'm listen to this now. Oh, can I have a little more of that? Just bring it up. Just it doesn't make. You don't have to cue it up. Do you want to know one of the things what they can bring you? Now you see the obvious implication by reading this is that other people are in touch with them. I mean, the guys that make it. Leader here is not telling me who he gets on the phone at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yes, Mr. Leader does not inform us at the sales meeting what he does behind those closed doors at 4:45 before he emerges 10 feet tall. Oh, we're on to you now, Bob. Yes, indeed. These invisible beings can give you endless streams of money, gold, silver, and jewels, radiant, glowing health, boundless strength and energy, the irresistible sex appeal of a top movie star. They enable you to enjoy the powers of telepathy and levitation. You've always wanted to float high out over the city, propelled by your own power, to levitate, to rise above the power of gravity. And they give you the power to control others, the ability to dominate anyone you meet instantly. And best of all, these unseen creatures give you tremendous wisdom, peace of mind, and profound spiritual treasures, and much, much, much more, so that your life will be a long, happy, rich, and successful one. If you ask questions about levitation, can your body defy the law of gravity? Oh, before you venture this opinion, read this book. Turn to page 26 and try an amazing experiment. Amazing experiment that will make your body rise in the air like a balloon filled with helium. Up you will go. You will rise above the poor, simple, petty man of your acquaintance. And it's all yours for only $7.95. Postage paid. Now, what I'm fascinated by, really fascinated by, is I'm sure that this kind of thing could not have been sent as recent as 10 years ago. Well, this is a very expensive mailing piece. This is not cheapy stuff, you know. It's done up in 2 colors, and it's all, like, it's got pictures, and it's printed, and it's all very official. It's not done on a smudgy little mimeograph machine. And obviously there must be enough people around today who are willing, who've tried everything. You know, he's tried powers of positive thinking, and he's tried powers of negative thinking. He's tried the celery diet. He's tried blackstrap molasses and Dr. Carlton Fredericks. He's tried it all, you know, and life still ain't fun. He's been 7 years at the Analyst, and he's bought all the books that they can possibly sell him on how to rise to the top of the economic ladder, and he's still in trouble. Finally, they will go to the dark spirits. Fascinating thing. Now, when I got this, I thought, gee whiz, wow. This is a growing, I think, is a growing thing in our world. I seriously mean that. I'm not being facetious at all. I think that the belief, the slow slipping back of the mind to the, well, even what could be called the pre-Dark Age attitude, is happening all over the world in many ways, many shapes, many forms. I've seen this happen. I've seen things like this popping up in places as diverse as Nigeria. I've seen things like this in the Middle East. I've seen there are various cults, you know, in England now that are springing up that are very big. Oh, witchcraft cults, and they're not kidding. No, you know, over here we sort of think it's kind of funny when one of them comes over and appears on television and that. But in England and in many parts of the British Commonwealth, the belief in witchcraft is growing by leaps and bounds. Now, again, it's easy enough for you to say, well, these are kooks, these are oddballs, idiots. No, I'm not so sure. That I suspect that there are many people who, because of one thing or another, are grasping at straws which mankind has always grasped at, and grasped at first in the original sense, when he had no knowledge whatsoever. I think many people today are hoping by grasping at a thing like this that they can totally wipe out knowledge. I think that as we get more and more knowledge about our world in one way or another, technically, astronomically, more and more we're beginning to be afraid, subtly. I think learning that the moon is just literally a chunk of rock up there, as you've seen from a lot of the pictures they've sent back, has not only been a profound disappointment to many people, and in fact I suspect it's been a profound disappointment to the race of man, but it's also made him a little more worried about the whole scene. That somehow, now I don't know. No, I don't. We don't have the time or the space, possibly even the medium is not right for discussing a topic of that kind. But I'm convinced that when that thing takes pictures of Mars and it comes back, and Mars is nothing, that's going to worry us more than if pictures came back and it showed a lot of parking lots and guys running around. Because you know what I suspect? I suspect that one of the great terrors that lies way in the back of man's mind is the vague possibility that he could be alone in all the universe. Totally alone. An isolated phenomenon in the whole universe. And he doesn't want to believe that. And yet, on the other hand, he's a little afraid to believe that he isn't alone. Which do you want to believe? Do you want to believe that there are beings that are intelligent, that can control their environment the way we control our environment? And this is really the ultimate test of a civilization or a being, an organized creature. Would you like to believe that? Does it frighten you a little bit? Or don't you care? I don't know. Not so sure of that. On the other hand, how do you stand on the idea that we may very well be the only one? There's nothing else. That as we send more and more probes further and further and further out into space, we find there's nothing but a lot of rocks. Now, how do you handle that one? So I suspect that ultimately, as we begin to develop more and more knowledge of our world, that is the physical and the technical knowledge that we certainly are getting, you're going to see a growth of black magic. You are going to see a growth of belief in what could be called the original sinister non-religions. now I don't know what you can call them. I suppose you can say the belief in the spirit world of not the spirit world in our religious sense, but the for example, there maybe is the water spirit. Maybe there is the money spirit that's after you, keeping you down. Maybe there's the sex spirit that's not allowing you to become a swinger. Maybe, oh yeah, these are the things which obviously are hinted at in this mailing piece. Not only hinted at, they're stated. There they are. And no doubt they're selling thousands of copies of this from people who are all over the world trying to make the scene in one way or another. Now, it would seem almost axiomatic. It would seem almost obvious that as man gains more knowledge, and as we learn about things, we learn about the atom, and we've learned about all kinds of things that are physical in our world. It would seem that we would proceed in that same direction with our mind toward knowledge of self, or knowledge of what we are, and knowledge of the whole context of man versus the elements. But I am beginning to believe that it could have gone exactly the opposite because of this. That as we learn more about our time, it confuses us more instead of enlightens us more. This is just a fleeting idea, and could very well be totally wrong. But when I received this in the mail, I thought, well, for crying out loud, it seems to me that I couldn't have gotten a piece like this just a few years ago. Now, I'm sure there were people around but they were those were truly the kooks at that time. In other words, the people who were around that dug that stuff, let's say 40, 50 years ago, we'll just say for argument's sake, just taking a time, those really were considered the local crackpots. And here I am in a big office here on 1440 Broadway, a very official office, and I'm getting this thing in the mail. And I thought, gee, that to me is a change. Now it must have some significance, but maybe I'm wrong again. Maybe I'm going too far off. But it is an intriguing thing to get. And I know that people somehow, and I've heard this said many, many times by people. This is a phrase that I've heard in many ways. It happens. It's said in one way from one man. It's said in another way from another man. And it is this, that a man has to believe in something. Now, I've heard that said many times. Now, what happens when, say, we've arrived in 1965, when guys no longer believe in any of the things which they were brought up to believe in? For example, let's say a man is a born and bred Republican. And then after the last convention, now he can't believe in the Republicans anymore. You know, what's he going to do there? Now, all right, he's lost. Now, don't laugh. It's not as facetious, because many men build their faith or their lives on such simple little beliefs as, I'm a Republican, or I'm a Democrat, or I'm a Rotarian, or, yeah, they do, little things like that. Now, these things obviously are gradually losing the meanings they once had. That the idea of being a Democrat or being a Republican is obviously losing a great amount of meaning. Just as maybe around the turn of the century, the various religious denominations began to lose their real power that they had at one time. The kind of power that would make a man go 40,000 miles on a crusade and lose his life for it. And one thing, that's practically. Now, there was a time too when men then would believe in their country, absolutely, totally, dedicatedly, and that was a belief that was almost like a belief in yourself. And so the Britisher would march out into the sands of Araby. He would march into the sands of the desert, and he would say, I am a Britisher. I am bringing the British Empire to the far corners of the earth. Now, he never questioned whether that was a good thing or not, or it was a bad thing. It was just the thing he believed in. That was the end of it. He believed in it. And just a few years ago, it's funny when you hear political speeches, if you ever read them, of guys around 1890, 1895, the amazing, simple, wonderful, naive patriotism that they had. It never seemed to occur to people like, say, Theodore Roosevelt, for example, that other countries could be right too, and we could be wrong in certain instances. Never would occur to him. Because he believed so strongly, and people of his time believed so strongly in America, that it was right. Whatever America did was right. It was just automatically right. Well, here we are now in 1965. Large numbers of things have happened, so nobody quite knows what to believe in anymore. And you find even guys don't believe in their own race. It's a wild thing. And so ultimately, I suspect that eventually you're going to see a growth of witchcraft. You're going to see a growth of various beliefs and various spirits. There's going to be the water spirit, and there's going to be the desk spirit. You were fired because the desk spirit got mad at you. And the spirits, of course, will be updated. I suspect that when you have the spirit world today, it'll have to be updated. It'll have to be computerized. You, of course, are aware that there is a patron saint, even now, for television. That there is a patron saint for the movies. And I'm talking about a patron saint. Some 7th century or 12th century saint is now the saint of television people, or the saint of radio. It sounds funny, but nevertheless, there it is. Now, I think that eventually you're going to see. Have you noticed the growth of little statues of one kind or another in people's cars? This is significant. Now, a few years ago, the statues all had a very orthodox religious connotation, but now the statues are beginning to take on other connotations. Skulls and crossbones, thousands of them. You go to the dime store down here, and they have a whole section devoted to nothing but monsters of one kind, skulls and crossbones, and the other world, the spirit world, the world of the evil spirits. Now I suspect that it might begin in polyethylene and end up in marble. Well, laugh. I'm just curious. I'd love to look at the mind of man. You know, have you ever noticed how many science fiction writers hardly ever talk about the mind of the people in their spaceships? Wouldn't it be fascinating if here's this guy in the 38th century somewhere, and he's doing an exploration job on Saturn, and they come back to their little spaceship, and they sit there for a while, and he's with his buddy, and they're sitting there, and they're contacting the Earth, and then they say, well, it's time, and they don these black masks, and they have a little religious ceremony where they take out a skull, and one of them puts a ring in his ear, and the other guy takes out a little tom-tom, and goes, dum, 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 dum. Their eyes roll and they sweat. And for 30 seconds they're transported by this strange pre-medieval religious ecstasy. And it's the only thing they can believe in. The earth spirit, the moon spirit, the spaceship spirit, the world of the tape, the world of the computer. And that I suspect might be very close to the truth eventually. Because have you noticed very few spacemen today ever talk much about religion? I'm talking about astronauts. Whenever they say, how did you do it? They say, well, all those people on the ground. That's how we did it. All those great workers, those guys that worked at the plant there, they built the machines. We've got to give credit to all the little people there that built the Vanguard 7, or whatever the name of the ship is. In 1840, you know what the first guy, what the spaceman would have said? We have done this only because God has willed it, because God was with us. You don't hear much of that. But eventually there will be some guys swallowed up. We have not yet suffered a major reverse in space. Let 7 or 8 spaceships get swallowed up out there in the dark night, and I suspect you may see the black masks. I suspect you may see a few bones being taken out and powdered, and the sound of a bat's wing being burnt over a gray candle. Oh yes, we're in for some interesting days.